But at some point, you've got to put a stop to it. You have to figure out what is creating the issues and try to fix it. Every other major sport, you've got locker room, you've got media availability, post-game. There's some different things I feel like NASCAR could set up where even if NASCAR calls certain drivers to an area and make sure that the pool of reporters can get those stories, that NBC has a chance where they're not trying to send 4 or 5 reporters to interview 3 or 4 drivers each, and there's just not enough time to do all those things, or they're only getting one question out because they have to run to the next driver. There seems to be, they need a cool down period of at least maybe 15 minutes so that every reporter has a chance to get to that driver and to get their story so that they can bring out some of these interesting type of situations so they can be followed more closely. All right, Eric, so one last topic as we get ready to close out episode 221. We are in the middle of the league championship series for Major League Baseball right now. We have the Brewers and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and Astros. So both of those series are close. They're not going to be closed out by the time the podcast drops on Thursday. So no real reason to do a lot of baseball breakdown. Not that you maybe want to hear Eric and I do that anyways. But when we can kind of look forward at potential World Series matchup, is the best case scenario for Major League Baseball in terms of what they're rooting for from a rating standpoint scenario, would that be the Dodgers and Red Sox? And the way it looks, could they potentially survive a Houston-Milwaukee World Series when it comes to ratings?
Well, I think they'll survive because I don't think it really matters. I mean, baseball is just kind of running in the background of the NBA and the NFL every year now. There's more and more people that follow baseball sort of loosely. They look at the standings online. They look at the stats. They see who's leading the home run races, who's got the leading ERA in baseball. And outside of that, I mean, who in America is sitting down and watching more than 1 or 2 full baseball games throughout the regular season on the TV? I don't think a whole lot of people. When I was young, when I was a teenager, I used to watch Baseball Tonight with Carl Ravitch and John Kruk and Lenny Dykstra doing different interviews. And, you know, you had something to get into, I feel like. Now it's just like it's running in the background. So I don't know that it even really matters, Justin. I mean, you would think that the obvious answer would be that the Dodgers against the Red Sox, with 2 major markets coming out of LA and Boston, would be sort of what moves the needle. But, I mean, how many people in Hollywood and in Los Angeles really care about baseball? Certainly there's Dodgers fans, right? But is there a lot of Dodgers fans? Is there a lot of people that really care if they're in the World Series? I don't know. The Brewers and Red Sox might actually be better for television because you'd have the underdog versus the storied franchise. It's hard to say what ratings would do anything. The worst case scenario probably would be Houston against Milwaukee. Houston was a great story last year. They got their World Series. Can they do it 2 times in a row? I don't know that a lot of people would be drawn to that the same way that they would be, you know, with the Cubs trying to win the World Series or the Royals trying to win a World Series or something like that. That's what Houston had the benefit of last year. I don't think they'd have that same benefit this year, and I actually don't think the Brewers would have that kind of draw. So it's a tough situation. I think Boston being in the World Series, no matter who they face, as far as Milwaukee or Los Angeles, is going to be the best scenario for the playoffs. But outside of that, I mean, it's just running in the background, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think when you wake up on Wednesday and even Thursday, it's going to be the NBA that gets covered. I think that's what's going to be first and foremost. And then you start to get into Friday, and a lot of times it's previewing either the NFL or college football. And unless baseball has something crazy happen, something out of left field that we don't expect, some controversial call, something dramatic, it's a blurb. It's a blip. It's basically falling behind. And that's sort of why I positioned the question this way is not can baseball survive from, well, no one watch. Well, people will watch, but the numbers are going to be low. And it's going to be something where I think for the most part, people just aren't going to be into it if it is a Houston or Milwaukee series outside of people in Houston or Milwaukee or fans of those franchises, because again, it's what you're watching for in terms of what's making the news, what's pushing things on social media. And I think right now that's the NBA, it's the NFL, and baseball needs something crazy to happen to get people involved in it. So I think for baseball, they are definitely hoping that it's a Dodgers-Red Sox World Series. All right, Nick, that's a wrap for episode 221. So what do you have your eye on coming up this weekend?
Well, definitely not the Penn State Nittany Lions, that's for sure. No, but I'll be watching LeBron James. I'll be watching a couple of the Lakers' first games to see what they look like out of the gate. Certainly the 76ers, who are our favorite basketball team. You made a great point there about people following a lot of the NBA players, no matter which team they're on. But you and I are both Sixers fans. They had a tough game against the Celtics in opening night here, but, it's so early, and I'm going to root for those Sixers because I do believe that they are a top 4 to 5 team, and hopefully more than that, in the East this year. So I'll be watching the Sixers as pretty much every game along that they go. And then what's going to happen in the NFL? Will some of these teams bounce back? You saw the Bengals have a tough loss against the Steelers. Does that derail the hot start that they were on? I want to see what some of these teams like a Jacksonville, what some of these teams like a Kansas City do when they face adversity. We saw Kansas City get off to a hot start last year, and then they went on a pretty large losing streak. So you've got that going on. Then in the NFC East with my Eagles, Justin, I'll be watching the fact that the Eagles made up no ground last week, because here I thought, well, the Eagles will beat the Giants, which is an interdivisional matchup anyway, so they'll put the Giants out of their misery. And then when Dallas loses to Jacksonville and when Washington loses to Carolina, the Eagles will gain some ground. Well, as we know, Washington didn't lose to Carolina and Dallas didn't lose to Jacksonville, so I'll have my eye on that NFC East this week as well. And that's a wrap for this episode of Talk Back. Justin, I appreciate all the hot content. There's definitely going to be a lot to keep our eyes on, especially with the NBA now hitting the court all across the league. We'll see what these MLB playoffs actually do over the weekend. Which matchup will we get in the World Series? And will one of those top teams in the NCAA football end up losing this weekend? Who knows? All of that and more next week on episode 222 of Talk Back. We hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Back. Staying current on sports is our number one goal, so we drop a new episode each Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice. For more info about the show, to meet the hosts, or to partner with us on future episodes, please visit TalkBackFanTalk.com. We really enjoy hearing your take on the world of sports, even when you disagree. After all, this show is dedicated to you, the fans. So get direct access to us on Twitter using @TalkbackJustin and @TalkbackEric. Check out our corporate feed on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @TalkbackFanTalk. We hope you have a great week. We'll talk back at you next time.